One thing that I think we can all agree on is when you feel better, you do better in life and especially in business. If your body is functioning optimally, you're getting good sleep, your brain is firing on all cylinders, and you have high energy, everything else that you navigate in life and in business is going to feel significantly easier. And I've been talking about my own health goals for the past few months and sharing damn near until I'm blue in the face about how there is a clear, direct correlation between my physical health and the health of my business and other core areas of my life. But it is one thing for me to say it, and it's another thing for an expert to come in and validate it, which is why I was excited to have my friend Layne join us for this episode to not only school us on how to feel our best, but to make it easy, sustainable, and attainable for us too. And that's my favorite part of this conversation because Layne demystifies functional health and reminds us that we don't need to be taking dozens of supplements and bending over backwards to take care of ourselves. It's all really quite simple. And she does this beautiful job in this conversation that you're about to hear, not only reminding us that, oh, by the way, we're actually meant to feel really good in our bodies and strong, but also leading us to practical steps to get there. Because let's be real, like we're busy. We have plenty of other things on our plate. If health and taking care of ourselves is competing with everything else, we're going to drop the ball. So it needs to be integrated in life and maybe even something that is enjoyable. So I'm excited for you to hear this because she really simplifies it and makes it so easy for us. So without further ado, enjoy this conversation with AFMC certified functional practitioner and my friend, Layne Vanlieshout. I am sitting here with a fabulous, fabulous woman who I have known for a couple of years now, 1 or 2 years. And you are so good at what you do. You are so passionate about what you do. And this is something that I've been talking about a lot in my world, which is health. I mean, I've always talked about the importance of prioritizing your health and your mental health just as a human in general, but especially as a business owner. So I thought it was damn near time that you and I come on here and finally have a conversation, because it's one thing for me to riff on the value of health, but it's another thing to bring in an expert. And you, Layne, are the expert as a functional practitioner in supporting people balance their internal health and how they feel and all of the things that come with that. So welcome to All In with Allie. I'm so happy you're here.
I am so excited as well. Thank you.
Okay, so give us a brief little intro on who you are, how you got into functional health, and what it is that you do for people. Give us a little rundown.
Yeah, well, I'm Layne Vanlieshout, and like Allie said, I'm a certified functional practitioner. I have worked in the health and wellness space since the age of 19, so I've been in that world for quite a while, and always learned and trained and studied conventional medicine, so diagnosing disease, treating primarily with prescriptions. And so my career path started in the nursing world. I went on to become a nurse practitioner. And in those last few years of when I was in conventional medicine is when my own health took a pivot, and I realized I wasn't feeling my best, and I could kind of pinpoint it was one way this day, and then the next day things felt different, and it kind of spiraled from there. And I started experiencing near fainting spells, dizziness, panic attacks, tons of anxiety, insomnia, and it started showing up as those physical symptoms. So it wasn't just in the mind, it was in the physical body. And it eventually led to reacting to healthy foods and feeling like my stomach was off and things like that. So around that time, I was certainly seeking care. I'm like, something's got to be wrong, because we all know our bodies better than anyone. So I was trying to find my answers and didn't find them through the conventional route. So that's when I knew I could not just live that way or accept that forever. And I started just trying to figure out what other alternative routes were. And that's when I came across functional medicine. And I feel like once you dabble in that a little bit, it's really hard to go back. So I started formal training in that in 2021. And a few months later, opened my business called LV Wellness Consulting. A few months after that, left my nurse practitioner job. And now I, not only having gone through my own health experience and knowing what it's like on that side of things, but also diving into deeper functional medicine training because I knew I wanted to help people on a deeper level, more than just we're traditionally offered when we go to seek medical care. So now my overarching mission is to help women achieve total body health by optimizing their gut and brain and hormones naturally.
Hot. Okay. So what's for anybody who isn't familiar, because I feel like functional medicine it's been this newer, I mean, it's not new at all, but I feel like it's become more popularized, especially since COVID. And I'm sure at first, like I remember first hearing about, I mean, I heard about functional medicine prior to COVID, but I remember first hearing about it and people have opinions and have like weird, it's one of those things where it's new and it's different than what they're used to traditionally. So they have questions and they have doubts and there's a lot of practitioners out there that I think go like to one very, very far end of the spectrum and it can kind of freak people out. So for anybody who is becoming on board with different options for their health, can you explain what functional medicine is and how it differs from a traditional practitioner that like their GP?
Yeah. Well, first I want to say there's a place for both and nobody's wrong one way or the other. It's just what's in line with what their beliefs are and the people that they're wanting to help, what their beliefs are as well. So with functional medicine, the goal is to get to the root cause and it's a lot more natural minded and holistic. So we're really looking at nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, spirit, things like that, and helping to resolve and support the body with things like supplements or nutrition tweaks or lifestyle hacks. So we're really coming at it from an angle of like, how can we give the body what it needs? What is it missing? Like what raw materials do we need to provide to it so it can function optimally? And that's where the functional medicine comes into play. And it truly is above the standard of care. That's why insurance companies don't love it. That's why it's not on every corner of every office right now. But I think that we're in this day and age where it's almost like a movement where we're demanding more for our health and we're tired of accepting it's normal. It might be common, but certain symptoms are not normal. And we can go into that. But when it comes to a conventional practitioner, you're taught to diagnose disease and prescribe medications. Like that's the bulk of it. And yes, there's prevention and there's lifestyle and stuff and nutrition, but it's not nearly as detailed in those areas as the human body thrives with.
Got it. Okay. So it's just a deeper, more holistic approach. And it allows people to take a more custom look at, because I mean, there's so many, gosh, if you get your blood work done and you see the variations and you see how detailed and deep that information can go and then you add in on top of that your genetics and you add on top of that your lifestyle. I mean, it really kind of makes you wonder how anybody does. And I appreciate you saying that there's a time and place for a GP, but at the same time, it's like, gosh, how do they even really know based on some very basic symptoms? If it's a chronic situation that's going on, like it's one thing to go in for a cold, but it's another thing when you have this persisting ailment that is making your quality of life less, and they're not looking into these deeper levels of information that we all have and have access to. But it also makes sense why they can't, right? So like, it's not that we fault other doctors out there. It's just that it's just a different lane. So I think it's important for all of us to become aware of the different levels of care that's available to us. And depending on what you're dealing with, to go after the correct form, right?
Yeah. And another thing with the conventional approach is it's honestly a lot of Band-Aids. We don't have a deficiency in a medication, but we might have a deficiency in a nutrient or something like that. So while yes, medications have their place, at the end of the day, they're not going to address the underlying root cause. They're going to mask the symptoms or stabilize the body, which is important oftentimes.
Sure.
But it depends on the person. Are they okay with that? Are they okay with being on that medication or however many medications forever? Do they have an exit plan with them? Or do they maybe want to use them only if needed for a short amount of time, while also pulling in the more holistic and integrative modalities to remove the need for the medication in the future?
Got it. Yeah, to have an exit plan for that medication, which a lot of people don't have, which is really concerning. So who do you think, like, what is your ideal candidate, or, the person who's listening right now who maybe has not either tried functional medicine, or maybe they have, but, like we were just talking about off camera, there are different functional practices and doctors and practitioners out there who have different focuses and different levels of expertise. So for anybody listening, who would be an ideal candidate? Or maybe there's symptoms, maybe there's issues that somebody might be having that you would say, hey, this would be an ideal time to go see this type of practitioner because you have this thing going on that there's clearly something, there's a deficiency, there's something underlying. Who would be that person? What would that situation look like?
I think that even people who might not have blaring symptoms, if they want to feel their best and optimize things and feel, take something good and turn it into great, like that is absolutely an area to come to me with as well. But a lot of my clients are experiencing symptoms that they're tired of accepting as their day-to-day norm. And a lot of those might look like food intolerances. You feel like you're eating healthy, but something's not sitting right. You're reacting to foods, or you're not seeing the results for all the work that you're putting in. They might have some period symptoms, heavy, painful periods, irregularities, sluggish metabolism, skin inflammation, acne, joint pain, hair changes, IBS-like symptoms, which anybody listening who might have been told they have IBS, that's really just a label. And there's so much that we can do to resolve those imbalances. It's kind of one of those things that they tell you have when they don't know what else to tell you.
Wow.
And that's pretty frustrating for people. But so I want you to know, if you have, something like IBS or anything at all, there is so much hope out there. We really can get a hold of these things so that you can not only address those underlying dynamics, but also actually feel better sooner than you think.
Okay, that's fascinating. Yeah, because I feel like I was actually just joking with Chris about this the other day. I was like, does anybody not have IBS? Like, I feel like so many people that I talk to that you actually can have a comfortable conversation with, and like I've come across so many people that wear this label, and it's just like something that they were told years and years and years ago. And it seems as if this is a diagnosis that they're just like, okay, I guess this is just stuck with me for the rest of my life. So that's interesting. I've actually never heard anybody say that it's kind of just a label and something that, I guess what you're saying is you don't have to just lie down with forever. It's actually something that you can address. Is it curable?
So first, it's a syndrome. So it's not even it has a diagnosis code, but it's not actually telling you what's wrong. It's describing symptoms. People feel like their gut is irritable. So that can be too frequent bowel movements, or the opposite, or a mix of both. But usually it comes with some sort of GI distress, discomfort, bloating, food issues. So yes, we don't have to just live with that forever. The root causes. Well, first, I'll just give you a quick, brief summary of what the 3 root causes are. So we have nutrition, nutrient poor foods or insufficient nutrients. We have chronic nervous system dysregulation or chronic stress, and toxins. So either too many toxins or impaired detox capacity. When it comes to IBS, all of those are going to play a role. But the more immediate thing that we need to address as well is the gut microbiome. So usually with IBS, there's an imbalance in our bacteria or other bugs there. Some are overgrown oftentimes that can lead to those symptoms, but we often see lower good bacteria as well.
Interesting. What is your stance on parasites? Because I've seen people are doing these cleanses now, and they're showing their shit on the internet with these nasty worms. And I know bugs are normal in your gut. Like, that's very important. We have like how many trillion? I mean, this is, what keeps us balanced and healthy, but also it can obviously be imbalanced. So what's your stance on these parasite cleanses? Are they necessary? Should we all be doing them? Are they unnecessary? Is it something that everybody has and we're just like freaking out about it now? What's the vibe there? Because this is concerning to me.
Yeah, that's such a good question. And it's such like a hot topic right now too, over the past couple of years.
It really is. It's so weird.
And the truth is we probably all do have parasites, and that doesn't mean they're bad though. I want you to think of a parasite just like another bacteria. Like they're going to function differently. They have different roles, but it's an ecosystem. They all thrive together, and our gut microbiome is designed to help us thrive as well as the human host. So when we have parasites, one's acknowledging that they can be a normal part of our gut ecosystem. However, it depends on the person. So if someone is having a lot of GI symptoms, and it doesn't even have to be the gut, it can also be more nervous system stuff like dizziness, fainting, brain fog, headaches, that can stem back to gut health significantly. So what I do is I actually don't blindly go after parasites or any other bacteria or virus for that matter. We want to do testing to see what's being detected in your microbiome. Parasites can't always be detected anyway, so there's not a perfect test for them. So it really just depends on the context of the person, which with any lab or any dynamic, we want to always take into consideration the person as a whole. Like who is this person, instead of just treating a number or a suspected problem. So I have done parasite cleanses on clients before as part of their gut protocol based on their testing. So only when we're seeing elevations will we pull in some anti-parasitic herbs along with anything that we need to address with the bacterial balance too.
Okay. So you're looking at their blood work, and if they have certain numbers that are alarming to you, then you'll do. And what would that look like? Like if somebody were to recently get their blood work and they have not been prescribed a parasite cleanse, but they feel as if they might need to, or they're thinking, because I know people are doing this on their own now. And that freaks me out a little bit. I'm like, wait, you should be careful doing these things. Cause I mean, I'm sure, I don't know. I'm sure there are ways to figure it out. But if somebody is wondering if they're a candidate for this, what should they be looking for?
So with blood work, there's one marker that comes to mind that might suggest that there's a parasite, but I'm actually not testing it in blood. I'm testing it in stool. Okay. So it is a stool sample looking at the gut microbiome and some other digestive health markers as well. So we're actually detecting like the DNA of the microbes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I would say I would heavily rely on testing if you can. If you can't, and you're like, my symptoms, they all align with what I'm learning about parasites, I'm not saying it's the wrong move, but it has to be a short-term thing. It can't be something that you're just taking anti-parasitic herbs for months and months and months and years. We want it to be like a very concentrated period of time. And when it comes to how do we do this, or what does that look like? Usually when I get their labs back, we're looking at the gut, we're looking at certain hormones often, and we look at the full picture with it all together. How does all of this make sense? Where are there overlaps and patterns? And then I will create kind of a step-by-step approach with that, with a protocol. So usually we want to kind of kickstart the gut healing with reducing inflammation, kind of getting a few foundations in place. Then from a place of strength, we can go after any overgrowths when it comes to bacteria or parasites.
Beautiful. Okay. That's helpful. That makes me feel better. So not everybody needs to be doing this. Just if you have these certain stool sample indicators and a certain level of discomfort. And that's why I am so excited to talk to you today and bring you on, because obviously, like All In with Allie, we mostly talk about, we always talk about business things, mindset things, But what I have found from working with so many women, I have found this very clear through line with, I hate to say it, but the more healthy the client is, the better my clients feel, the better that they perform, the better results they get. Like there's this very clear, like holistic situation going on where it's not they're not just thriving in their business, but it's all parts of their lives, right? And that's why I call this All In with Allie, because yes, I want you to be all in on your business, but I want you to be all in on your life, which includes your relationships, which includes your relationship with yourself, which includes your relationship with your health and how you're feeling, right? Taking this holistic approach to everything. And I see, unfortunately, a lot of people out there, clients, friends, I've done this, where people will not be feeling their best mentally, physically, whatever, and they just kind of accept it, right? And unfortunately, it's been normalized for people to feel sick or feel unwell or have gut issues or have mental health concerns and issues that are persisting, and put a Band-Aid on it versus saying, hey, maybe there's a different approach. Maybe there's something that oftentimes easier and far less harmful than just taking this medicine for the rest of your life, or this medicine that's throwing everything out of whack. It could be taking vitamin D or eating more red meat or whatever. So what would be symptoms? Because this is fascinating to me, that you see people normalizing or being normalized, that you would say, hey, this isn't normal. And if you're feeling this way, this isn't something that you have to deal with or just accept as norm for you. But what do you see people walking around with that could probably be fixed for them?
Such a good question. And there's such a long list, but some of the most common ones I see are fatigue. So, you can't function without coffee or multiple cups of coffee, or you need a nap later in the day. Some people just have accepted that as their day to day. And most likely they've been told by someone else that that's normal for whatever reason, because you're a mom, because you work full time, because you're a certain age. This is just how it is when you get to this point in life. And that's so frustrating to me, because I believe we were created to feel well on a regular basis. And 100%. Yes, ups and downs, like there will be ebbs and flows with life and health and business and everything. And what we really want to see is, how can we establish a new baseline that where we feel however good on a day to day. And yes, there will be some days that are worse than others. But anyway, that's not the point. The other symptoms that I see are a lot of the GI stuff. So I bloat after meals, no matter what I eat, I just, I can't really pinpoint what it is, but something doesn't sit well. I just have IBS. I've heard that so many times. I've just been told that ever since I was a kid. Menstrual symptoms. So people who might experience like really heavy or painful cramps where they're having to be on the couch and curl up in a ball. We are often told that's just part of being a woman, but it's not. It doesn't have to be that way. And while that is a common experience, so many people, like we can really optimize that so that you're not experiencing that degree of symptoms, so we can lessen that and resolve it. I want people to start thinking of symptoms as signals instead of just an annoyance. They are annoying. I will absolutely validate that yes, symptoms are a nuisance and they can be frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's your body speaking to you. A headache can be a gift if we're aware of that, and we're like, what does my body need? If I have a headache, what is this telling me? Am I drinking enough water? How are my minerals? Am I having inflammation somewhere else in my body that's leading to headaches? Have I eaten today? What's my blood sugar doing? And so seeing that is like an empowering opportunity to look at your health and your body differently.
Okay. So fatigue, gut issues, period issues. Yeah, that's a big one. When I learned that it is not normal to have a painful period and to have all these PMS symptoms, that blew my mind, because it has become so not only normalized, but romanticized in a sense. Like it's like this badge of honor for women is once a week out of the month, you're going to be in pain. You might not be able to leave the house. You're going to be grumpy. You're going to be miserable. And it's like, what kind of joke has the devil played on us to make this a normal thing? But I never questioned it. And so many people don't question these things. It's like you've dealt with it for so long that it just becomes part of you. And it doesn't have to be. And again, so many of these, like whenever I learned about, periods, we've had several conversations on this show about it. But a lot of the protocols to help women with their menstrual cycles are often a change in diet and supplementation. It's not medicine. It's not this long thing. It's not even that difficult. But do you feel as if some people might take for granted or are more inclined to not believe a protocol when it's almost too simple? They're just like, there's no way it can be that easy because they're so used to it being difficult for them.
Yeah. One of the phrases I hear all the time is, I've tried everything.
Yeah.
And it might seem that way because you've tried so many different things over a span of months to years. But I'm willing to bet you haven't tried quite everything. It's just something you might not have acknowledged in the past, or something that was available to you, or even known that it was a thing. And that's where it really can be as simple as, let's address the root causes. Like, let's address the nutrition, the toxins, the nervous system, and let's see what your body specifically needs too. Because there are certainly key nutrients and key dynamics that can lead specifically to menstrual symptoms. And yes, they can absolutely be addressed and resolved.
And then the 3 root causes, remind me what those are again. So these are the 3 root causes of all disease, these issues, this disease in your body. Tell us, go through those one more time.
So if you take any dynamic, it can eventually be traced back to these 3 at the very, very core. So nutrients, so whether that is not consuming optimal nutrients, or we're consuming a lot of inflammatory foods, there might be gaps in our nutrition there. So just simple nutrition as a whole. Chronic nervous system dysregulation or chronic stress. So being in fight or flight for a very long time. This, of course, can be like mental, emotional stress. But what people often forget is like the physical stressors that our body can be undergoing as well, such as inflammation or gut health imbalances or blood sugar instability. All of those are physiological stressors. And then the third is toxins. So either we're overwhelming our body with toxins that we're being exposed to, and or we're not eliminating toxins optimally, because we are designed very brilliantly and our bodies detox all the time. But we need to make sure we're not getting in the way of those detox pathways.
What are some symptoms or signs of an overburden of toxins? Because obviously, especially as women, we love our products. A lot of us do. I know, or I'll speak for myself. I love my products. I'm putting things on my body all the time. I love to smell good. I love for my house to smell good. And yes, our bodies are, and I love that you said that, because we are designed to detox, but it's when you go overboard and there is that overburden in your body. So what are signs, symptoms, signals? And I love so much how you put that. Symptoms are signals. It's like a red flag going off. It's like an alarm going off in your body. It's not something to be like, oh, this is annoying. Let me take a Tylenol again and ignore it. It's like, no. This is like your check engine light coming on. You don't just ignore that. You ask yourself, what is happening in my body to cause this? So thank you for that reframe. I think that's really powerful. But again, the toxins, I feel like this is something that is talked about a little bit more, but is still unclear, at least for me. So what would that look like from your perspective?
A lot of people will report headaches, trouble sleeping, skin inflammation like rashes, acne, and then a lot of menstrual stuff, heavy painful periods.
Oh, wow.
And we go back to that a lot. And a lot of it has to do with our liver. So our liver is, the star of the detox show, at least to a large extent. Our liver also has to detox hormones. So if we're experiencing some sort of like estrogen dominant dynamic where we're experiencing those periods symptoms specifically, a lot of times it can we might not even be making too much estrogen. It can be that our liver's not detoxing it optimally.
Okay, here's my next question there, because you mentioned fatigue, you mentioned headaches, which a lot of these symptoms can be symptoms for other issues as well. It can be gut imbalances. So that's something that has always confused me. It's like, gosh, a lot of these signals in our bodies can be signaling different things. So is that where the importance of a blood panel or a stool panel comes in, to where that's where you can actually discern this is where, or likely where, the headache is coming from? This is likely where so much fatigue is coming from. And you can get clear on, this is a toxic issue, this is a gut imbalance issue.
Yeah, the testing is really helpful here. And there are a lot of different options of what could be contributing to a headache or anything in particular symptom wise. And it's often more than just one thing also. So while it could be toxins, it might also be a nutrient insufficiency or a gut health imbalance. And so I do find that there's a lot of overlap with what could be causing something in particular. But the other thing too is taking an honest look at our lifestyle and nutrition. It might not always be something we can detect on a lab. It might just be something that's like a bigger picture situation, because we can get lost in lab work. We could overanalyze labs all day, and that's not going to be helpful. So while we want to take like the hard objective data with the labs, we also want to connect it to the person. And I don't want to over supplement someone either. So if we're seeing all these gaps that where we could throw a million supplements, nobody actually wants that. And so let's pick a few key supplements that are going to make the biggest impact and prioritize those, while also addressing lifestyle and nutrition at the same time. Supplements at the end of the day are also a Band-Aid in many cases, just like medications can be. So we want to be mindful of that. There are a few that might be beneficial long-term, but most supplements that I use are for a short-term period of time.
Okay, that is fascinating. I will say, I got blood work done a few years ago, and it was overall a fantastic experience. But my one complaint about it is, once I was done, I was put on this protocol that was so labor intensive in terms of supplements. I mean, like, the amount of supplements I was buying and needed to take, it wasn't sustainable for me. Like, it simply, and I understood the value of it, but, well, in a sense I did. Like, if I didn't even really understand why I was being put on a lot of these, which, like, I'm one of those people, and I feel like hopefully everybody is like this, where, like, if you're going to do something, you need to know the why behind it. Like, let's understand the value of this, because then you're more likely to stick with it. But this, I'm talking like upwards of over 5, like maybe even 10-ish supplements I was put on. And I was like, I can't do that. Not to mention, it's breaking the damn bank. Like, these things were not cheap. So I love that you're saying that. Can you go deeper there? Because I know that a lot of people, they might not be in a position to get their blood work and panels done right now, or they may not see the value in it yet, but they're trying to do their best to take care of themselves. And there's a lot of information out there regarding what people should or shouldn't be taking. So let's look at women, and let's talk about, women who are at a baseline healthy. Okay. So we're not talking about anybody who maybe has, I don't know, you can go deeper and make those clarifications as you see fit. But in terms of supplements, can you break down what you would like to see the average person taking? Is there anything we should be avoiding? Are there any supplement red flags? Let's talk about this.
Okay. Of course, everyone's different, but for the average person, like, if I was to pick, I'm going to do 3. If I was to pick 3 supplements, that would be super helpful for the vast majority of people. And of course, use your discernment with this. This is not medical advice. Everyone we're all bio-individual, so we have to take that into account. But most times I find that common ones that I use are going to be magnesium. Magnesium glycinate is a go-to for me, because there are different forms and they can have different benefits or purposes, but the glycinate form is very helpful for a lot of the most common things my clients come to me for. A B complex would be my second choice. So these are energy cofactors. They also help with detoxification. And this is found in a lot of multivitamins. So technically you could probably do a multivitamin, but I prefer to do a B complex instead because you'll get a little bit better dosing numbers. And the third one would be fish oil. So a high quality EPA, DHA fish oil, healthy fat. It's so important for brain health, for the gut lining and how the gut functions, but also the creation of hormones. So those are my top three. As far as what I wouldn't do is don't blindly take things that are going to alter your gut microbiome. Probiotics can be an exception, and that's a very common question.
About probiotics. Yeah. Okay. Talk about that.
Okay. So I love a probiotic in a gut protocol. It has a time and place, but I typically don't recommend them for the average person unless maybe you've been on antibiotics recently. We can pull it in for a couple of months, but I wouldn't take it every day. I would prefer to eat fermented foods. Like, how can we get good bacteria from foods instead? So again, there are times and places for that when we see a specific need, because a lot of the challenge with probiotics and any supplement is how do you actually know it's the right one for you without testing or like someone to look at your full picture and kind of guide you in that. So that's my probiotic opinion.
And prebiotics, what about those?
I would just get them through food. So prebiotics are essentially fibers, different types of fibers that we can eat. And so let's push a colorful plate, multiple different types of plant foods if we can throughout the day. Okay. I think those will give you a lot of the prebiotics.
Okay, that's helpful. Okay, I love that you said that, because there's all of these companies that are popping up and they're super popular, and you hear a lot, especially on podcasts, you hear ads for probiotics and prebiotics and all the things all the time. And yeah, I think it's important to use your discernment when taking these. So, okay, a magnesium glycinate. Yep. Glycinate. Okay. Yeah. Because there are different, and I didn't know there were different types of magnesium. I also just learned this. And I take ZMA, zinc, magnesium, and I don't even know what the A is for. Chris gave it to me, but it was, I couldn't remember the type of magnesium that's best. So you prefer glycinate because there's a few different types. And what specifically does that help with? I know it helps with digestion. What else?
So the glycinate form is great for the nervous system. So it's not going to make anyone sleepy, but it can help with restful sleep at night, but it can also just help induce more of a calm state. Of course, it's helpful for digestion. This form in particular doesn't typically cause like bowel motility changes. That is where the citrate form is my favorite if there is more like sluggish bowel motility. The glycinate can affect people differently, but usually we're not seeing many changes in that. It can certainly help with cramps, headaches, pains. So if someone's having menstrual cramps or headaches, magnesium is going to be in their toolbox for sure.
Okay, so magnesium's helpful. A B complex, and can you get B complex just by itself? Well, okay, another question on top of that. Is there a brand that you really like in terms of the quality of supplements that they put out? Because there's a lot out there, and that can be confusing too.
Yeah, so there are a lot of really good brands, and I don't have one that I always use. I have a variety because they'll have different supplements.
Shout them out.
Forms or blends that I go to. So I love Seeking Health, Metagenics, Pure Encapsulations, Douglas Labs, Thorne. Those are the ones that come to mind right off the bat.
Okay, I'm using Thorne. Yay. Okay, good. Good to know.
Shout out to Thorne.
Shout out Thorne. I hadn't heard of the other ones, but we do use Thorne. So that's good to know. Okay, so B complex. And what does B complex do for you?
So it's just a variety of B vitamins. So if you think of, when you take a prenatal or a multivitamin, there's a lot of B vitamins. You'll have some degree of the B vitamins in there, but a B complex is just a little bit more concentrated. And they're really important for energy creation on a cellular level, which means, yes, the energy that we might feel, but our cells need energy to function, for our brain to work, for our muscles to contract, for our blood vessels, everything. And so that is one of the biggest things is like the cofactors for a lot of those different processes. But B vitamins are also really important for detoxification. So when we're talking about liver and toxins and menstrual cycles, we have to give these kind of cofactors for the detox pathways as well.
Fantastic. And then fish oil is good for brain health, right? Which is the most important. I mean, besides gut.
Well, they're so connected and
they
arguably kind of one and the same, with how connected they are. But yes, fish oil is really helpful for the brain because healthy fats or fatty acids are important for our cells to function. It's also really helpful for gut health. It's an anti-inflammatory in addition to, being a fatty acid. So it can help drive down inflammation. But our gut also has a layer of mucus inside it that we need to be well functioning and strong and intact. And fish oil can help make that happen essentially.
So when people have leaky gut, is it because that's thinned? So does that mean that toxins from the gut that are in the gut are now getting into the bloodstream? Is that what that means?
Oh, this is such a good topic to go down.
Let's go down it. Let's go.
Leaky gut is another really, it's a buzzword. It's like a very trendy topic, but it's also like poorly understood. You explained it pretty well though. So
I just guessed. So
yeah. But we'll go deeper into it. So if you imagine, this is how I teach clients. If you imagine a skin layer, it's lining the inside of your stomach and intestines, and only certain things can cross through, like our water and our minerals. So if you also imagine a cheesecloth, super tiny holes, only the thinnest of the liquid can pass through. And that's how our gut lining functions. When we have leaky gut, this can be due to a number of things, usually a combination of inflammatory foods, high stress, low good bacteria, overgrown bad bacteria, toxins. And when that happens, it can cause wear and tear on that mucosal layer and the gut lining. So it's like two different layers here, but they can both get worn down. And when that cheesecloth gets inflamed, the holes can become bigger, like Swiss cheese. So now particles that were, that's an exaggeration with the size of the holes.
I literally was picturing that. I was like, that does not sound good.
No. Exaggeration on the size, but just for the brain to grasp the concept.
For the illustration. Got it. Okay.
Yes. If you now imagine food that once could not pass through can now fit through those holes. And that's where food intolerances typically come from, is your immune system's now being exposed to this food that is in the wrong place. It's not that the food is bad. The gut lining just is no longer functioning as we would want it to. So that's when we see a lot of the food-related symptoms or the systemic inflammation. So to answer your question, yes, when the gut is leaky, when those two barriers are worn down, they're no longer separating the world of the gut versus the rest of our body. And so we can see an immune response and systemic inflammation in response to that exposure. And that's how it's supposed to work. Like, we want our immune system to respond in that way. But the problem comes when it doesn't stop. Like, we're never giving it a break. We're not correcting the reason that the inflammation is happening.
So an immune response would look like what? Just in case somebody's experiencing this and they've normalized it and they don't even realize that this might be happening to them. What could those look like?
It's usually system-wide inflammation. So people feel puffy. They're like, I don't really feel like I'm gaining weight. I just feel puffy overall. Or acne, rosacea, psoriasis, hives, anything autoimmune related can be stemmed back to gut being a part of that story, especially the leaky gut and the immune reactivity there. Brain health symptoms, so fatigue, brain fog, headaches. Those are the biggest ones that I often see.
Okay. Very helpful. Yeah, these food intolerances, that's a really interesting topic too, that I know a lot of people deal with. Well, let me ask you this, with the quote leaky gut and those. So by taking, I don't know if maybe taking fish oil is too simple of a measure or if something more drastic needs to be done, but that can be reversed, no?
Leaky gut can be reversed.
Okay.
Well, I also want to just disclaimer that we all have some degree of leaky gut, and that's where the cheesecloth comes in. Like, there's some things technically leaking through, but we see an increased permeability or increased leakiness when that barrier's been worn down. So to answer your question, fish oil is usually involved in my protocols, but it's also just one piece. I wouldn't, if yes, it can be absolutely helpful, but I wouldn't expect that that's going to be like the magic pill for anything like that.
Sure.
We really need that holistic, comprehensive approach. So yes, we can use it, but like, let's also figure out what else might be contributing to that besides a lack of fatty acids.
Right. Because then you're just, again, band-aiding the problem and you're eating something, or, there's something going on here that needs to additionally be addressed. Okay. So once again, it's so specific per person, and there's just no way to know based on a common symptom, right? Like your acne could be caused by multiple things. Your IBS, the symptom of irritable bowels could be caused by many things, fatigue. So this is why I just am so thankful that there are people like you that are doing the work that you do, that are helping people get this deeper level of care. So talk to us a little bit about, like, what is your favorite thing about what it is that you do and how you help people, and give a breakdown. Because I know there are people listening and they hear how informed you are. I'm sure they're loving what you're saying about the supplementation. For people that are wondering if they should hire you or somebody who's maybe an expert in something that they're dealing with, give a rundown of what it looks like to work with you.
Yeah. So first, one of my favorite things is like validating people, because they've gone however long, months to years at this point, maybe even decades, being told it's all in their head. This is normal. There's nothing we can do. Here's a prescription. And for them to actually have the support that, one, like, no, you're not making this up. It's not in your head. There actually are reasons that you're feeling these symptoms. Just seeing like them light up. Like, I cannot wait to tell my husband that this is why I'm tired all the time, or whatever it may be. Is having that information is so powerful to them, because once we have the information, the next most important step is acting upon it. But something that we struggle with in our society is like information overload. And so a lot of times we can struggle with the action piece because there's too much noise and we're not sure what is the most important for us right now. So that's another part of my favorite area within my business, is the customization piece, because there are a lot of things that we could do for anyone, but what is actually going to move the needle most for this person based on their labs and their symptoms and their health story. So as far as what it looks like to work together, I have a newer program called Elevated Wellness, and it's a 6-month program, and it has a combination of both one-on-one support, but also community. So it's called Elevated Wellness, the Total Gut and Hormone Reboot Experience. We do labs in this, so we're looking at gut health and hormones. Then we do customize a plan of action for you and then support you along the way. We want to make sure that you're able to implement things, that things are working well for you. Because like you mentioned, Allie, is like sometimes it's a big commitment with the supplements and the regimen sometimes. And so I want my clients to know I'm in their back pocket to guide them through, to troubleshoot, to tweak, or course correct wherever is needed.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So Elevated Wellness, that's like a 6-month situation, and y'all go all in together, right? Like from blood work to whatever. And you give them that super customized approach. You listen, you validate. And I love that too. And I love that you mentioned that, because it breaks my heart to think of women, kids, maybe even, or anybody, it could be anybody who has this persisting ailment that everybody just writes off as, I don't know, something that is so far off from what the actual issue is. Or they've tried certain protocols, they've tried certain approaches, and it's not working. And they start to gaslight themselves in addition to everybody else gaslighting them. And that's just like, you know when something's off. And that's my goal for this conversation, is to shed light on, like, you can feel better. Like, you're made to feel good. If you're walking around feeling exhausted or overly stressed or dealing with some sort of chronic symptom or discomfort, that is not normal, and it shouldn't be normalized. And there are people out here like Layne who will look at you, who will listen to you, who will validate you and find a solution, find the root cause of this issue instead of putting a Band-Aid on it. So I'm just so grateful for the work that you do. And I know enough about you and your business that I could not recommend the work that you do more. Like your passion for helping women feel their best. And I love how you said earlier, go from good to great. I think that's important too. This isn't just for somebody who is dealing with all of these issues and symptoms, although you absolutely obviously help them. But this is to optimize somebody who also feels pretty decent. Like you can feel your best. You can feel even better and take your brain health, your mental health, even your physical health to an additional level, which is what attracted me to you too. It's like, okay, I'm pretty good, but like, how do we biohack myself even more and push it to the next level, which I think is a fun chat too.
Yeah. And one thing to also recognize that our wellness journey or healing journey is never going to be over. I am still evolving in my health and wellness. So as new information comes and as we just reach different levels, we're going to have different requirements for what we want for our health or different goals for our health. And so just acknowledging that we can always optimize more. So depending on, no matter if you're feeling like not great at all versus like pretty good, there's always room for improvement or even just simplicity when it comes to our health routines.
Okay, good to know. One question that I meant to ask you that I'm going to ask you now, because I think this is really interesting, is are there foods, medicines, anything that people would be consuming that is just an absolute red flag, no go, stay away from it? Like, is there anything like that comes to mind?
I don't know if there's anything that's like never, ever, ever consume this or you'll, die.
Right, right.
But
meth
or that.
Yeah.
But so first it's just acknowledging that our bodies are resilient. So if we have a little bit of inflammatory food once in a while, it's not going to be that detrimental to your health. If we have to take an ibuprofen once in a while, it is what it is sometimes.
Yeah.
And so what's more common for you or for someone listening is like, what's your everyday look like? What's a normal, consumption of different foods or medicines? So I will always encourage the consumption of whole foods, but that doesn't mean you can never have processed foods. And if you do, then you're not healthy. It's about finding the balance between that and making educated and empowered choices. A lot of times when we're dealing with gut health imbalances or systemic inflammation, we do have to be pretty serious about what are we consuming because we know that's going to have a direct impact on our gut, which we knows has a direct impact on the rest of our body. So we do get a little bit more serious about certain foods during this time. So we often need to remove gluten, sometimes dairy, depending on the person and what their labs are showing. If we have all this inflammation, we have to start there because it's going to continue to wear and tear. With that being said, I do believe that most people, if not everyone, can get to a place of resiliency where they can tolerate those foods without issue in the future. Medication-wise, it would be great if we didn't ever have to rely on prescription medications, but even things like over-the-counter, I'll just use ibuprofen or Tylenol as an example, is there's a time and place. Like if we need it to function in a given day because we do have a cold or we have like an acute injury, like we fell and like bruised our elbow really bad and we can barely drive or whatever, then it's okay to lean on those medicines. What we don't want is a dependency on them. We want that to be just a short term, and then we kind of bounce back and get back to our baseline.
Okay, so short term is what to you?
Maybe 2 weeks.
Oh,
if not days in some cases. Like, for example, I know when I've had a cold of some sort, it was either lay on the couch and not do anything all day or take a Tylenol and be able to function and go out for a walk and do what I needed to do. And so in that case, it might be a dose here and there on those very rare occasions.
Okay. Last question. What is your stance on energy drinks?
Okay. Most of them are trash.
Right. I know. This is what I'm wanting people to hear.
Yeah. So most of them have a lot of artificial ingredients, whether it's flavoring or colors or sugars. And so the artificial things is what I really we don't want to consume those, at least, again, the vast majority of time. If there's one exposure once a year, we're not worried about that, So even some of the better ones are still using artificial sugars like sucralose, which I don't love because it does have an impact on metabolism, even though it's a no calorie or low sugar. It's not actual sugar. But also it can contribute to some gut health dysfunction for some people as well.
Okay. So yeah, it's one of those things like every once in a while, no big deal. Because our bodies are designed to do what our bodies do, detoxify, but it's the everyday or most day consumption that's an issue for you. Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking of, and that's, I mean, there's so many things that come to mind that I know I worry about. For example, like, and maybe you can speak on this. It may not be your lane. I don't know. But like seed oils. I heard seed oils can be inflammatory. So this is something that I've been trying to pay more attention to. And like my son is in this phase right now where he likes this specific brand of waffle. So like, and he's gotten into this groove where he wants it every single day. And they're overall healthy. They have like protein in them or whatever, pretty good ingredients, but they do use seed oils. And they don't even tell you the exact, they said maybe this type, or this type, depending. And it's like, what? So I'm like, wait, but this is something he eats damn near every single day. So that's where I'm like, okay, is that something that I should be concerned about? Also the things that I eat every day, right? Like drink coffee every single day. Like my life depends on it. I just enjoy it. I can go without it. I just enjoy it. So I guess I don't even know what I'm asking. If you have anything to say about seed oils, I would love to hear that. But then any type of specific ingredients that you're like, if this is something that you're consuming every day, you may want to look for an alternative, if there's anything that comes to mind.
Yeah. So seed oils, yes, can contribute to inflammation. At least that's what, a lot of the resources are telling us.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of the hardest ones to avoid, in my opinion, like just from experience when, you might have found like a really great chip or cracker that's gluten-free and doesn't have a lot of crazy stuff in it, but there's that seed oil. And so in those cases, if we can find a better alternative, absolutely. But that is one of the areas that I allow a little bit more like grace with because they do put them in so many things these days. So I would say if that's the only thing, then overall, like think of it as a spectrum instead of just like this food is good or this food is bad. It's like, where on the spectrum might this food fall because of the benefits that it has? So I tend to, yes, we want to limit or avoid where we can, but also we don't want to be causing excess stress over a lot of this either.
Right. Yeah. Because a lot of it is how you think of the food, right? Like I mean, the placebo effect is a real thing. Like if you think something's good for you, there's going to be some benefit there. If you think something is killing you, there's going to be some sort of detriment there too. So I love that you're saying that, like chill out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you also want to be mindful that you're not completely overloading your symptom. And obviously if you're having things arise, inflammatory symptoms or these chronic issues, then that's when you want to definitely take a look deeper and see what needs to be reduced from your diet.
And also, it's probably like in this example, the waffles are just one meal. So what are other good things is he consuming in the day? And this goes for everybody. It's like, is that actually, it might be a lot less significant in the grand scheme of things when we think of all the different foods that we're consuming. And I love coffee and matcha. So I'm not anti-caffeine whatsoever. It's more of like the energy drinks from like the additives they put them in there. Okay. And so you asked what ingredients would be like a hard no. I would say MSG.
Okay.
Anything artificial like sucralose, aspartame, artificial colors. Those are a hard pass for me. I also just like to look at the ingredient list as a whole. If there's more than 10 ingredients, it's kind of a red flag and we might just want to go ahead and put it back. If you can't pronounce or understand most things, also a red flag. Doesn't mean everything necessarily, but the simpler, the better.
I mean, I will say this, it was hard to sustain, but over the summer, I decided to do like a hardcore health goal for myself where I was like working out 6 days a week and I was eating only whole foods during the week. That was my goal. And it was a pain in the butt to some extent. Definitely had to meal prep more. But when I tell you, my brain and my energy and everything, digestion, everything was significantly better. And I feel like I'm pretty baseline good. Like I'm very lucky in that sense that and fortunate that I don't have any chronic issues that I'm aware of anyway. Or maybe I've just, I don't know, completely buried it, but I'm good. I'm all around healthy, but just making that shift during the week and weekends, I did my thing. Game changer, complete and utter game changer in terms of, again, like how that's what I noticed the most was like my focus power, my brain energy. I just felt like I was firing on all cylinders. And what's so crazy is until you experience your body in an optimal state or your energy in optimal state, you don't know what you don't know. You don't even know what you're missing. So it's kind of annoying now because like I'm good now, but I know the difference of good versus great. And it is a difference. It truly, truly is. So I would just encourage anybody listening, you don't have to go balls to the wall if you want to. You know me, I'm all in. But also I think making these smaller changes that are even easier, you're going to notice a difference and probably sooner than you think. But I would set a goal. And if there's you have maybe an intention or goal that you would have people set for themselves too, like if they were getting started for themselves. But I personally would say like set a goal, stick to it for at least a month. You're going to notice a change.
Yeah. Well, I want to speak to the not realizing how good things can be because I hear clients say that. They say, I didn't realize how bad I felt. Like I thought I was like just okay. But now they have this whole new perspective of like what good actually feels like. So they feel like an entirely new person. I didn't know I could feel this good. And so of course I love hearing that because that's the transformation that we all want, is to reach new levels that we weren't even sure were possible for us, but they are.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the small habits. So I wanted to share a concept that I really like on microdosing, and it's nothing to do with mushrooms or drugs at all.
Oh, bummer.
I know. It's not what you think. But it's just the concept of those small habits. Like how can we microdose different routines and habits into our daily life? I really like to use this in the discussion of the nervous system because when we talk about stress, it's all around us. Like how can we reduce stress? And it's not about removing the stress because usually that's a hard thing to do, but how can we build a stronger stress resilience in our bodies and minds? And that's where the microdosing can come in because we know a spa day would be great. We know a vacation would be great, but what about an average Tuesday? Like, what are we going to do? Microdose nervous system support, if nothing else. This can look like taking 1 extra minute in the shower or taking a walk or doing some breath work, setting your timer for 2 minutes in the middle of your day so that you can actually like take a beat and breathe, having full meals and not rushing through them. And a lot of this can be just the everyday tasks like brushing your teeth, washing your hair, doing the dishes. How can we slow our pace down so that we're not rushing through everything? I have found that the physical pace, like actually rushing throughout our day, contributes just so much internal stress. And that was one thing I noticed about myself when I was feeling my worst. And if we can just physically slow down, it's not going to take that much more time in the grand scheme of things, like a few extra seconds.
That's true.
It's sending signals to our brain and body that we're safe, and safety is the goal always.
Wow. That kind of hit with me because I feel like for me, I'm good at the obvious stuff, right? Like moving my body, eating decent, avoiding certain things, but it's the rushing. And I never thought of it from that perspective of like the signals that I'm sending my body because I feel like I'm a chronic rusher. Like I'm constantly rushing to the next thing, rushing to the next call or the gym or whatever. Maybe I'm sure it's a mix of poor planning too, but also like eat. I mean, I will like stand up and eat constantly. I will not sit down. It's always like, how fast can I do this, especially during the week? So that really brings up an interesting point. And another thing, like that could be an area that I personally optimize for myself that I never even considered.
Yeah. Well, I was that person too. Like I said, when I was feeling my worst, I was working night shift at the hospital at this time. And I would see how fast I could get ready for bed. Like, how fast can I do the dishes and
Yeah.
eat my last meal and then take a shower and get ready? And I'd be so excited that I did it all in 30 minutes. But like, is that actually a badge of honor? It's not.
Right. Yeah.
We thought it was. I thought it was at the time, but really it was adding to the effects on my nervous system that then progressed to all of those symptoms that I was experiencing that I talked about in the beginning. That was just one of the components that added to it though.
Okay. We need to slow down, y'all. We need to eat well. It doesn't have to be that complicated. And I love this conversation because it's not that complicated. Like it's really, really not. And again, a lot of these changes are pretty simple and attainable for most people, not even the average person. Like these are changes that everybody could make. I mean, 3 supplements to try that can make a significant difference. Like everybody can figure that out. But for those that are listening who know that they need to take their health more seriously and they want that customized, very hands-on approach, specifically with you, which I could not recommend more. Do you have resources that you would recommend that you have? How can people find you? What would be next steps in terms of that? And I'll make sure that I link everything in the show notes.
So my Instagram and TikTok is Layne_Vanlieshout. So I know that's a lot of letters. We'll have to type that out in the comments for you. That's a great place to start. As far as resources, I have so many things. I would point you first in the direction of my gut rescue guide. This is a really comprehensive understanding of the root causes. We go deeper into that conversation, but also action steps to support and address all of those root causes. And the other option is you can always book a call with me as well, just to talk through your health story. For someone who knows right away they want to go into a deeper, more comprehensive review with their labs and the support, then the Elevated Wellness Experience is the place for that, because we're really getting all of the gut and hormone testing that I would do. And then we're doing that customization piece and supporting you over that duration.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah. And you guys, Layne's resources, like her freebies, are the most stunning, comprehensive. The fact that they're free is actually, it's so crazy, but it makes so much sense because you offer so much value face to face. So it actually makes sense for you to give all that information away for free. So we'll link the guide that you mentioned, and you have several ways that you support people. So we'll make sure that we link to your site, and yeah, book a call with Layne. Like she feels like, if you can't tell already, which I feel like people can, like a bestie who has your health's best interest at heart and who is wildly knowledgeable on holistic and functional approaches to health and wellness. So couldn't recommend her more. Layne, thank you so much for joining me today and enlightening us and making this feel like a more optimal level of health feel sustainable and achievable for everybody, because it is. And I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.